Welcome back to part 2 of a big deep delve about concealer and colour corrector. What I'm going to discuss with you is what you can use your concealer for, when it's best to use a colour corrector, what kind of techniques you can use to conceal different things. So let's get back into it. As always, everything I've mentioned is listed in the description of the video, but by all means, please feel free to substitute all of these tips with whatever you already have at home. It's worth mentioning that because we all use concealer for different things, I would kind of recommend different techniques for different types of concealing. So I'm going to go through some of your questions and just talk through what would be best to do for each thing. So Little Wardy, you wanted to know about spot concealing. What I would say for a spot is do your foundation first. By the way, a big thing I always like to say, this is a question that comes up a lot, should you conceal first or should you do your foundation? First of all, it's totally up to you. Like, as long as you feel that your makeup looks great and you're happy with it, there is no right or wrong. But second of all as well, technically, let's say for example, the eyes, your products might not even overlap because you might put your concealer right the way around, say to the orbital bone, and then your foundation goes everywhere else. So there's that. But when it comes to something like acne or a spot, I would actually say if you do your whole foundation first, you can then get in there with the magnifying mirror and have a look and see where you need a bit of extra coverage. And that's what I do with a spot. So for spots or acne, do everything first, press the concealer, whether it's your brush or your hands. I've got a little mole there, but because it's pigmented, it's a good way for me to kind of illustrate this. Press your concealer into the area and around it, like here, and then using your brush, soften out that outer edge in a way that you've melted everything into the skin without touching the raised area. And that way, because that's already raised, if we scrub at that, you're just going to lift the coverage off. Whereas if we buff and blend it in without going near it, we're more likely to just get that full cover. Again, as I mentioned with the eyes, I would then follow up with maybe a powder or a setting spray just to lock it into place. And you may find that you have to do that a couple of times, that kind of apply, lock, until you get a really full cover. I would also say with that, that's a great example of something where your concealer would probably be best if it was a perfect colour match to your foundation. Jules, you asked me about pinpoint concealing, and I think this is a brilliant technique if you have areas that you want to cover but you don't want to look like you've got too much makeup on. Ultimately, this can be really easily achieved with a tiny brush, and instead of putting kind of a big wash of concealer everywhere, just use a tiny brush to really gently dot a fuller coverage onto any blemishes. And then let's just say you could have a really soft sheer wash everywhere else. Maybe you've only used like a tinted moisturiser, but then you've secretly got a really full coverage on the areas where you need it. And then the illusion is that you've barely got anything on because you haven't used loads of layers everywhere. Linz, you asked a good one. What do I do when my concealer has creased? We've all been there. The best thing you can do is gently buff and wipe it away because you've probably got a lot of product gathered there. Wipe that away and start again. And I know that sounds a bit like, oh gosh, but like, let's just say, for example, this is the same kind of thing that comes up with foundation pilling. There are certain things that it's actually better to just get rid of them and quickly redo than try and rectify. Another one is if you're wearing a really matte lipstick and you've been reapplying and reapplying, there comes that point where you go to the bathroom and you're looking at your face and it's just gone a bit clumpy. A quick wipe off and restart is the way to go. And that's what I would do with your concealer creasing. Bring something with you. That's where the likes of that Maybelline is great. You've got the sponge at the top. You can just buff everything away, go back in, and it's the easiest thing. Another thing I would say is keep a little hand mirror on you or check your face a bit through the day. And when you get in the habit of it, it's so quick and easy, but it's just one of those things that you kind of train yourself. That saves a lot of time rather than kind of 3 hours into your meal with your friends going to the bathroom and wondering why no one told you that your makeup has gone AWOL. Now then, the next thing is, depending on what you're looking to conceal, it might be the case that you're better off using a colour corrector rather than a concealer. So think of your concealer as a full coverage camouflage that is just going to kind of even everything out. A colour corrector is based more on colour theory, and if you have a prominent area of discoloration somewhere, it will help to neutralise it. So examples of this would be dark circles, melasma, hyperpigmentation, redness. These are all things that will lend themselves really well to a colour corrector. Colour correctors operate using a colour theory. So do you remember when you were at school and you learned about the colour wheel? And you've got your primary colours, and then you've got like every colour has its opposite on the wheel. So for example, blue eyes are always going to look great with like copper eyeshadows or orange eyeshadows. That will make it look brighter. Or think of like red and green on a Christmas tree. They are complementary colours on a colour wheel, so they'll make each other look brighter. If you flip that on its head, and let's say for me with the redness, if I put green on top of red, because they're each other's polar opposite, it cancels it out and flattens it out. But obviously you can't then walk around with like green on your face. So what ideally you would do with your colour corrector is put it just on the area that needs correcting, then put the rest of your makeup on top, and that just helps to be this like buffer to help your actual foundation or concealer look a lot more flawless. Anna, for example, you had said to me, how do you cover dark circles? You might prefer to use something to counteract the dark circle and then put your concealer over it. Thinking of a couple of people that do this really well. Bobbi Brown recently have brought out these correcting sticks. Again, a really kind of creamy, soft texture. You can put this in really quickly, buffs out easily. You can take this on the go with you if it's something where the colour shows through. And then they actually have the matching concealer. So you kind of have your little duo that way. I have these next door. I'm so cross with myself that I didn't bring them in. NARS in this exact shape, but it's like a white packaging, have correctors across all different skin tones as well, so that you have this same kind of runny liquidy consistency if you prefer that you can pat in of your own accord. And your colour is going to be completely different that you're using to colour correct depending on what you're looking for. So for example, if it was kind of brown hyperpigmentation or melasma or something like that, you may even be looking at maybe an amber or a terracotta colour to help to take that down. Whereas on the flip side, like this, I used this on a TikTok live for the first time the other day. I bought it a while ago from Sleek. It was an affordable one, and I'm trying to find all of the best affordable green correctors and just correctors in general. And I thought I'm just going to give this a go. I mean, look how bright that looks, but it actually melted down into a really sheer wash. This is the kind of colour that will help to take the edge off redness. While I'm speaking about redness, I thought I'd go into quite a bit of detail on that because I'm always correcting redness myself, and it's one of the things that comes through the most in the questions. Affordable redness corrector, cannot recommend that enough. That one is from Sleek. I'm yet to try these. These are from MUA Academy. I bought these the other day just to see what they were like. They have correctors across all different colours as well. They were more affordable than the Sleek, so I will try those and get back to you as soon as possible. When it comes to redness, I just thought I would bring a couple to your attention. Depending on what you're looking for, there are a few different ways that you could do it. So if you're noticing that because of your redness, your makeup isn't lasting as well, you are the perfect contender for the Daniel Sandler Anti-Redness Primer, because this will very gently take down the redness, but it will lock your makeup into place. If you're someone that just wants to colour correct the areas of redness, you don't want to wear any makeup, maybe you do, but like for argument's sake, if you don't want to put anything on top, if you're not putting foundation over it and you just want to eradicate the redness, you're going to love the Dr. Jart Cicapair. This again is a brand that I've worked with a lot. I've got some work coming up with them before Christmas to kind of animate these new drops. But again, the reason I kind of have these partnerships is because I do love and use the products, so I wanted to mention them here as well. Original Cicapair Cream dries to more of a matte finish. It's very undetectable. I would say with any corrector, only put it on the area that you are dialing down because it will look out of place anywhere else. If you're a Cicapair fan, you're going to actually love the Cicapair Drops. These are an already melted down version of Cicapair because it's another one that you have to warm up before you use it. They're a lot more radiant and glowy, so if you're noticing dullness as well, I think you'll like those. Whatever you have used, another thing that I would say is crucial, in my opinion, is setting it into place. So I thought I would show you a couple of things to set. Translucent powder, if that's your thing. The peaches and cream powder is a couple of pounds. I want to say it's £6-7. I'll find out and write it in the caption. Brilliant, very kind of finely milled, doesn't kind of look or feel dry, but it will set your makeup into place. Again, I'm their ambassador for a reason. The powder I use the most is the Cosmetics by Pores. This is a really, really lightweight powder. It will set your makeup, it blurs over any texture. If you hate the feeling of anything dry, you'll love this. There's no talc in it. A really nice one. In particular, if you don't want to draw attention to fine lines, wrinkles, it's going to sit really beautifully. If powder isn't for you, that's not what you're looking for, and you want to use a spray, Urban Decay setting sprays are basically just, I feel like it's a universally acknowledged truth. This is where you're getting your setting spray from. They've got loads of different varieties. Trust me to have this glowy one, but the original setting spray would be the one I would recommend to you. A setting spray that I am actually so delighted with, because to be honest, I'm not much of a setting spray person. I'm always more of a powder person. But the Half Magic setting spray, I feel like any kind of social media page of mine is now like a Donny Davies stan page. I'm not upset about it. Her whole aesthetic as a makeup artist is that she likes skin that looks like skin. And so she made this setting spray to just lock your makeup in and give it that kind of natural, fresh skin look. If you're someone that's having to layer a few things to get your coverage, but you don't want it to look heavy, this is the perfect thing to put on top, and it will lock your makeup in. I'm going to leave it here to fit into my times because I don't want to go over, but I would invite you, if you're watching this and you haven't found your perfect concealer yet, to please let me know what you're struggling with in the comments. I'd love to help you find something great, and hopefully that's cleared a few questions up. Any more, keep them coming, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll chat to you again very soon. Take care.